You guys want to get some wisdom? I have none for you, I'm afraid. So when I went to college many moons ago, I had two ambitions. One was to get a job when I graduated, so I studied computer science. The other was to become wise, so I studied philosophy. The second goal did not go very well. Now, I don't blame myself for this, looking back. I did go on to get a degree in the philosophy department, but I look back, since I graduated, I've still studied philosophy, and I've learned a lot of things that I wish I had been taught while I was there. And I felt that Philosophy 101 was filled with all kinds of stuff that didn't reflect philosophy, because the word itself means love of wisdom. Who here loves wisdom? You do. Good. Okay. Most of what goes on in philosophy is focused on isms and ologies and pedagogies and orthogonal relationships between different people's ideas, which is really not that interesting and has very little love. It's very clinical and cold, which is really not what I went into studying philosophy for. And I found that instead of focusing on these things, what I really wanted to do instead was learn about what people actually did. And I want to give you the benefit of what I've learned since I got my philosophy degree. For starters, you should know the people who came up with all these great ideas, the geniuses, a lot of them had miserable lives. Whatever wisdom they had, whatever brilliance they had, did not necessarily connect into them being happy, well-adjusted people. So, this means if you want to reject these isms, you want to throw this stuff away, it's okay. It's okay. There's better ways to go about understanding philosophy. You don't necessarily need to follow all the literature and all the stuff they put together. A much more useful way to learn about philosophy is take simple questions we already use in ordinary life. Things like the question people use all the time of, are you a half-glass empty person or a half-glass full person? I really, really hate this question because it's stupid. There's a much better answer. Both can be true at the same time. It's a physical possibility. They're both true at the same time. And anytime someone projects philosophy where they take a binary distribution, us versus them, good versus bad, happy versus sad, and tries to apply that to the real world, you're going to get into trouble, which is why many of the philosophers went crazy. They were trying to put these binary distributions into real life. And a much better way to look at the world is not to focus on Western philosophy all the time, but to find the Eastern philosophy view, which is focused on things like yin and yang. And this binary distribution thing actually comes from Plato, who was very big on separating the world into piles. Piles were very important 3,000 years ago, but we have moved on. We don't need to worry so much about the pile thing. So Eastern philosophy, the yin-yang stuff. Now this whole attitude is like, hey, there's some black in the white and white in the black. And that helps figure out what white is and what black is. And that's good. And the peanut butter and the chocolate, that can be good too. This whole attitude is much more open to paradox and contradiction and recognizes that those things are essential and unavoidable given the limitations of our understanding of the world. And those things are good. Now the ironic thing is that Socrates, who was a Greek philosopher, he's one of these older guys, was actually fond of this idea. Socrates had a lot of good stuff to say that the Eastern philosophy would be very fond of. He was big on ignorance. He felt that the first step to wisdom is admitting you don't know nearly as much as you think you do. And the way you become wise is recognizing the fallacies in your thinking. So we went around to people and he would say, hey, he'd ask them questions. The Socratic method was this question-asking technique, and it tended to piss people off because he showed them they were not as smart as they thought. Now, this means that really what we want to do if we want to become wise is start thinking more about what we know and how we know it, which leads to a big word called epistemology, which is the study of how you know what you think you know. And if you start thinking about this, you have to go back through time and ask yourself the question of all the big hardcore beliefs I have, which flavor of God you like, what sports team you root for, all of that stuff was given to you when you were very young, when you didn't have many choices. So you have to go back and ask yourself, wait, if I didn't choose these beliefs or these ideas, why do I have so much vested interest in them? And epistemology says you have to start there. That's the beginning to wisdom, which leads to the next big word, existentialism. And my favorite existentialist was a guy named Camus, which is really fun to say, Camus. The existentialist view basically says that the burden is on you. That if you want to figure out the meaning of life, you have to recognize it's the wrong question to ask because there is no singular meaning. We're all different. We all have different needs and desires and wants. And the way you sort it out is to recognize there's multiple meanings. And you only understand what they are by getting out into the world and experiencing different things and understanding what you connect with and what you don't. The meaning is something you have to experience, and enlightenment cannot be given to you for free. You have to earn it, and no book or philosopher, dead or living, can possibly grant that to you. It's up to you. So to sum up in 5 minutes everything I think that I know about philosophy, that's all I have to say, really. So thank you for listening. Hey, there you go. All right.